So in 2015, the Liberal Party decided to make it a campaign promise to regulate the recreational use of cannabis. So in 2017, our NDP government works together with them by furthering their plans by releasing a survey to the Albertans to give their opinion on how the cannabis industry should be regulated. So on October 4th, on October 4th, they released a proposal video on from these opinions. So they mentioned that any person above the age of 18 can carry up to 30 grams of dried cannabis, can grow up to 4 plants indoors, and how they plan to regulate and keep the cannabis clean. So so I know what some of y'all are thinking. Wow, Robin's a stoner. She's talking about cannabis in college. No, please don't invite me to smoke cannabis with you because my parents will disown me. So I just wanted to talk about cannabis because I was genuinely curious about why it has the stigma around it and why it's seen as the devil's lettuce. So I asked myself a couple questions, is it actually bad for you? Well, you kind of have to know how the brain works for you to know how cannabis works. So in our brain we have neurons, and our neurons are basically the wires to our brains that'll connect our thoughts to our bodies. So it'll tell us when to blink, when to breathe, when to have our heart beats. Also in the brain there are chemicals called annabinoids. Annabinoids, and those are chemicals that stop the neurons from firing almost. It's it gives it a break. It gives the neurons a break time and tells it to relax so that our brains can function in a controlled and calm manner. But in THC, in the cannabis, THC stands for tetrahydrochloride. It creates chemicals that are very similar to the annabinoids. So it counteracts the annabinoids. So it would basically it would counteract it, so it would keep the neuron firing. So if any of you seen someone who's high, they would either think of food and they wouldn't stop thinking of food until they got food, or they would go on these huge life experiences and be I don't know, plants are living, plants have life, and they'll keep going on about that and have a huge life experience and explain everything. And most people, most doctors, see cannabis as a medicine, and since it is a plant, and it doesn't have chemicals that don't resemble chemicals that are in our brain already. Unlike alcohol, those are nothing like it. So what's it called? So if your brain's firing too much, I asked myself, if your brain's firing too much, isn't it bad for you? Well, no, because THC is similar, like I said, to the chemicals in your brain already. And I found that you have to smoke more than 680 kilograms of marijuana to actually kill you. And that's a little bit over 1,400 pounds of cannabis. So I don't think anyone could actually afford that. And especially because, I don't know how it is right now. It's on the black market and everything's extremely expensive. But other than that, so I asked myself again, why is it actually legal then if it's basically a miracle drug? Because people see it as a miracle drug. So back in the 1920s, the Mexican immigrants that crossed into the U.S. border were taken in as employees for American farmers. So the farmers found that they weren't being efficient enough because of the cannabis. So that's when they started banning or prohibiting the preparation of cannabis. So that didn't really affect anyone for 10 years until the 1930s. In the 1930s, Mormons went to Mexico, brought back cannabis, and since the state and the church were very close at the time, people saw that it was really bad and somewhat bad, sorry. So it would stop the efficiency of the people, and then in the 1930s, sorry, 30s, stop. Okay, in the 1930s, and then that's when the legalization of cannabis started because state and church were closed. So I don't want to be blunt with any of you. Pun very intended. But I think the legalization of cannabis was stupid in the first place because cannabis has been used for thousands of years beforehand to cure anxiety, to cure bulimia at some point. And like there was a case last year when a mother posted a video of her son having a seizure, and she put cannabis oil in his lip, and he stopped. So I think that the Liberal Party is doing some good by furthering the regulation of cannabis, because we can further research the plant. And yeah, thank you.